Hello and welcome yet again to the channel. Thank you for joining me today. Before I go ahead, you're probably wondering where I've been. I am very late with this video today. Video issues, something that is going to be fixed, ready for my next video, which will be the Halloween review. But today we are talking about Season 3 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So, let's get to it. So yeah, like I said, we are back today talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. As I say, I am very late with this one, coming in 2 days later than usual. Was planned for Friday. Things didn't quite go right. I am a lot busier now. But don't worry, we'll still get those videos out as soon as possible to you. So, we are talking today about Season 3 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I can tell you now, Season 3 is one of the best seasons of Buffy. Is it on par with Season 2? Yes. But is it better than Season 2? No. We're going to get into why it's not necessarily better than Season 2 eventually, when we get to the initial talk about the actual season itself. But for now, we are going to do the usual, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So this season was out in 1998. Now, before I go ahead, there was an episode, Earshot, which is a very, very good episode. Buffy kills a demon. She gets the demon blood on her, and it allows her to read minds. However, because of the material in the episode didn't air until the season was finally finished. I'm not going to go into the details. Just wanted to put it out there. That's the reason why, even though this is one of my favourite episodes and I wanted to put it as my favourite, it's very much outside of the realm of Season 3, even though it occurs during the events of Season 3. But anyway, starting off with the good of today, the good, the bad and ugly on Season 3. And the good we are starting with is Doppelgangland. Doppelgangland is brilliant now. It's on par with Wish, and we get a lot more. We delve a lot more into Willow's character in this episode. You could say this is the episode that sort of makes Willow the character that we love from here on out. It starts off the episode where she's balancing this pencil. It's 16 episodes into the season. It's rated one of the highest episodes of the series at 9.3 on the Internet Movie Database. It is a brilliant episode. Anya and Willow accidentally summon Willow's evil double from an alternate universe. It's how wrong could this gone? Not at all, in my opinion. We are going to get more into detail of these episodes from here on out with some trivia. So let's see with some trivia from the episode. I'm just going to go straight to the first one I read here, saying, well, just when, like the character of Vampire Willow, when she was first introduced into Buffy and the Wish, so much that they wrote this episode specifically for her. So obviously the Wish was where Anya got Cordelia to wish that Buffy never came to Sunnydale, which obviously changed the universe completely. Willow's dead, Xander was dead, vampires, Buffy wasn't around, of course. However, she does eventually get there. The Master took over. Prophecy, I'm guessing, changed because of that. Because he was released. I'm guessing that in this universe, the Harvest went ahead because there was no Slayer to stop it. And so the Master was free earlier. But that's quite an interesting piece. Another one is that the scene where Vampire Willow walks down Sunnydale's main street, finding it full of happy people, is a shot-for-shot recreation of Cordelia walking through the same area in The Wish. However, Cordelia's experience is the direct opposite of the vampire Willow. Although she never witnesses it, this is one shot that escalate. I can't read what it says. Encapsulates. Encapsulates. It's spelled wrong. Encapsulates the difference made by Buffy's appearance in Sunnydale. So this is specifically relevant in Gingerbread. When Joyce questions whether or not Buffy really does any good by being the Slayer. That's a good point, actually. You know, when you look at the series, you know, you could easily question why it is, you know, that, you know, what Buffy does her best, and Buffy is a Slayer. There are certain aspects where it's like, but so why are there still, you know what I mean? Why is there still evil out there? It's sort of a superhero problem as well. You know, you can only do so much. In this instance, that's what happens. We're going to read one more, and then I'll talk about why it's one of my favourite episodes. Josh Whedon commented, God, some of the funniest stuff we have ever did was in that episode, but also the scene where they find out that Willow is alive and everybody is so goddamn funny. Giles, Xander, Willow, and Buffy, the foursome. Yeah, it's a scene that I was going to bring up for this episode. Is that it is one of the best scenes in the Buffy universe now. Giles, Xander, and Buffy are all mourning for the loss of Willow. But of course, as we know, Willow is alive. And this is not our Willow. But they don't know that. They don't know that at this point. And they don't find out until Willow enters. And, you know, Xander is one of those characters that it's so hard to like. Just because of certain traits that come up, certainly later on. You know, that he's a typical bloke sort of thing. Earshot is one of the reasons that it sort of, you know, pushes forward that Xander's a typical bloke. Not necessarily the biggest issue with Xander, but, you know, it's part of it. But, you know, you got to give credit to Xander in this moment. You know, he sees this Willow. He's thinking it's the Willow that I just saw at the bronze. He takes the cross and he pushes it right in front of Willow's face, and then he's like, "Oh, it's not working. Let's give it a shake." Like, you know, it's batteries of a controller or something, and points it back at her. It still doesn't work. It's obviously because she's not the vampire Willow that has entered the episode, and it's such a funny scene. And obviously we get, okay, so Willow's alive, so Xander's talking, Buffy hugs her, and it's like, you know, I could do with breathing, you know what I mean? So I think I can't exactly say what the exact line is, but and then of course, in one of the funniest ever scenes with Giles, Giles goes in for a hug with Willow once Xander and Buffy have sort of released her, and it's like, you know, sorry, and then all of a sudden Giles comes in and gives Willow one of the biggest hugs ever, and it's just so funny, you know. It's such a small thing in an episode that's actually really good, and it heightens the episode. And it's definitely one of the better written episodes in the whole series. You know, you do get some struggles. You know, when a season goes on and on and on for a couple of seasons, you do eventually see there's a decline in the writing style, you know, and it doesn't quite feel like the same series that we got early on. But, you know, this is one of those instances where it reminds you of that later on when you watched it, and there's sort of very different sort of atmosphere between these characters. And, you know, as you grow, you do sort of come to know these characters so very well. And just think as friends, you know, if you think about, you know, your own friends, you get to know them so well to the point of which you might actually start to judge. It's not necessarily something that you do. It's certainly not something I do. But you start to see weaknesses. And I think in this instance, the writing shows this, that, they start out, it's all a laugh, but later on it's like, serious life gets in the way, and that's where the true selves come out. Certainly with my friends group, it's a case of like, we all have a laugh. It's all great. But, there are times when things can get pretty serious and we're all down to earth, sort of sitting down, having a serious chat. I've had a lot of serious chats with some of my best friends. People like I wouldn't, be able to live with it. And it's the same with family. If you are really well connected with your family, then of course you're going to get along really well. And that is something that really shows in this episode. Because at the end of the day, they do become a family. It is a family. And we're a part of it. The audience is a part of it. So, moving on with some of the scenes, Angel sort of goes through the same experience. They see Vampire Willow in the bronze. Angel goes off to find Buffy, and they go to the library, and of course, Angel enters, and it's just like, Angel's like, he can't get the words out. He's so upset about what's going on, and actually, it's one of the instances where you see Angel actually gets upset about what's going on. It's quite interesting to see, because obviously his connections with Buffy to the group, take that away, and Angel's got nothing to do with them to a certain extent. He's just a helper. But obviously, his connection with Buffy makes it stronger, and he has spent some time with these people, and he gets to actually care, and he shows that with Willow. In this moment, he's like, he doesn't know quite how to put it forward. That he's just seen Vampire Willow, and it's a moment of weakness on Angel's part. Which is quite nice to see. It's something that, of course, is explored more in Angel with his group of people and his friends and his family within the series, but it's not something you see very much in Buffy, and it's sort of like this. It sort of starts to cement those pieces within Buffy for Angel, and of course, Angel realizes that Willow's there, and he's like, "Hey, Willow," just for a second, he's a little bit dumb. He knows why he's there. He knows why he's rushed there. And yet he still stops to say, "Hey, Willow," as if to say it's nothing. It's pretty funny. It's well written. And it's well performed by David Boreanaz. The actors are brilliant in this series. And this episode shows. So, of course, a few other key moments is when Willow comes across Willow. We get the gay line. This is the first indication that Willow might be gay. But there is a line in this episode that actually makes me favouritize this episode in this season to any other episode in the season. And that is when Angel, they're talking about Willow, Vampire Willow. And Willow can't understand how she'd dress like that. And I think, and Angel stops them and he's like, actually, there's a moment where it's like, Angel's like, actually, when a human dies and become a vampire, certain aspects of that human are in the vampire. And it's sort of like a wink, nod to the future that Willow doesn't become a vampire, but she's indeed this powerful witch that you don't mess with. She's a powerful person that you don't mess with, and is indeed lesbian. So that's quite an interesting aspect that's where the universes don't necessarily change. That she is lesbian. So yeah, that's the reason why I love this episode. This episode's so brilliant. And you get the Willow going to the bronze, pretending to be Vampire Willow. You get the Vampire Willow. There's the whole creepy scene with Wesley and Cordelia in this one. One that I used to find quite funny, but rewatching it is quite creepy. At this point, Wesley knows that Cordelia is a school student. She's 17, yes. But at this point, Wesley already knows that she's a student, yet he's sort of still, wouldn't necessarily say that he goes for it or anything like that. Especially not in this episode, it's the prom episode. of this season, which is another good one. A little bit slower paced, but it's a good one. There's a lot to love in this series that we'll get to in a minute. But, yeah, creepy moment with Wesley. There's some other things in this episode that really do shine. And I do think this is one of those episodes that when you come to rewatch it, you look forward to it. So that is the good of the series. They're very good. When when I say good, I don't necessarily mean it's just good. In some cases, I can just mean it's just good when you've got a weak season. But I do necessarily mean it's great because it is a brilliant episode. And it's one that I enjoy to watch every single time I come to watch it. So, of course, with the good, we do also get the bad. And, looking through this season, there's not a lot of bad episodes. There's a couple. There was one that I was going to add into this as the bad episode, and that was Beauty and the Beast. I believe it's called Beauty and the Beast. And we have to remember that angels come back from a hell dimension in this one. But for me, the episode that I think struggles the most in this season is the season opener. Now, I remember when I first initially watched Buffy that I actually enjoyed this episode. I can still enjoy the episode today, but I don't know. There's something about it. Maybe it's the setting, maybe it's the story. I'm not sure. But there are just certain aspects of it that make me sort of disdain the episode a little bit. I do struggle with the episode. I don't know what it is. It's just that there's, we'll get into what it is, or we'll try to. But let's hit some trivia again. We'll go for the 3 top trivias on IMDb for the episode. So, first one we got here is the scene in the school at the beginning, from about 6:43 to the 10 minutes on the DVD, is all filmed in a single take, from the library through to the cafeteria to the hallway, with 6 main actors, about 100 extras, and nearly 50 lines of dialogue. Not a lot to say about that. To be fair, it's pretty self-explanatory. Buffy was known for doing these little songs. There are a lot of shows out there that do these single shots. Buffy was one of them that did it quite often, and does it really well. Can't say I remember the shot per se. I'm guessing it's the shot where they go back to the school. That it's the first instance where they go back to school for the season. I'm guessing it's that shot. I'm thinking it is. There's also a couple of shots that were used in the opening titles of Angel. You see, now I always remember this, that when I start rewatching Angel after I've rewatched Buffy, because I don't always watch it, I have never watched it in continuation because it's so difficult to keep up with it. When certain things happen. But yeah, I always remember when watching Angel, I thought, wait, the title sequence does look very familiar in that first episode. And I thought, where have I seen these moments before? And it was in Buffy. In this episode, we do get shots for the title sequence of Angel, which I kind of enjoy. I kind of like that, I think it's easier for the show rather than using scenes that are ahead of time, especially considering it's the first episode. They don't know where it's going to go. Why waste money using scenes when you've got scenes ready for the title sequence? They probably made the title sequence first. Another point in here is that the first use of the remastered Buffy thing, it will be heard in the opening credits for the remainder of the series. Yes, so we actually got the updated version of the Buffy thing. There's not a lot of difference. I think it's just a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more, head boppy. But yeah. It's also the first. Hang on. Seth Green appeared in the opening credits for the first time as well. There's a lot of little tidbits here. Ozzy's stake is wilted down baseball bat. Of course, I've noticed that. And it's the first time we really got the goth Buffy logo in the main title. Again, something that you do notice when you rewatch it, but you don't necessarily notice for your first watch. What else we got for this episode? Because there's not a lot to talk about. marks the first two times in which Buffy refers to herself, or is referred to as Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And the second time is in Help, which I can't necessarily remember off the top of my head right at this minute. But, I think it's kind of funny that this episode kind of sets up some plots in Angel. Some minor plots, the character of Anne that we get by the end of the episode, who was a character that appeared in season 2 episode with Spike. Lie to Me, is it? Yeah, I think Lie to Me is the episode. And Spike is offering to turn this kid who wants to be turned because he's dying. And there's a character down there who wants to be a vampire. There's a group of people who want to be vampires. Vampire purists, vampire lovers, sort of thing. And, that character changes completely in Angel. It's the same actress, and it's definitely the same character. It was like, it's quite clearly the same character. They call her Anne. She sometimes goes by Annie, I think, as well. I think I've heard Gunn call her Annie. And she is completely different to what we see in the first few episodes of that episode from last season of Buffy. And then you get this episode where she's a druggie. But then the next time you see her, she's starting to help the community of LA with charities, trust funds, trying to help the homeless, give them somewhere to live, hostels, that kind of thing. And it's a big change for the character. One, I think, is worthy. So, there are certain plot lines in this episode. I don't know. I just think it's a weaker Buffy episode, and maybe it's just the fact that Buffy's not Buffy in this episode. She's not a Slayer. And, it takes her time. That scene where she takes out all the demons is really good. Yeah? When we get Buffy the Vampire Slayer back, that moment when she says, I'm Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, and you are. It's just, there is no doubt that it's a well-written line, it's a well-performed line. But it's a moment too late in the episode, unfortunately. And that's why I feel like this episode does deserve to be a little bit lower. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a few other episodes now before we get on to the ugly. One of the episodes I considered putting on the list for one of the weaker episodes is the episode, I believe it's called Faith, Hope and Trick. Now, I don't dislike the episode per se. Faith's, it's Faith's introduction. I love Faith's introduction. I love Faith. Faith is one of my, it's weird to say because the show's called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but Spike's my favourite character. Faith's my second favourite character, and then Buffy comes in at third place. The idea that was floating around that Spike and Faith would have their own spin-off, which eventually they did in comic form. And I think I would have, loved that a lot more. I don't know, maybe it's just the rebellious type that I'm drawn to. With Faith, not with Spike. Spike's not my type. Sorry, Spike, I'm flattered, but you're not my type. But yeah, I was considering putting that in the bad, but at the same time I was also considering putting that in the good episodes, and that's the reason why it's in neither. There's a lot of good episodes in the series. But we are, of course, going to the ugly side of the series, and that is Faith kills a man. That's one of the biggest points of the series. During a time where it sort of becomes clear that Faith is not like Buffy. They make the big point that Faith will never be like Buffy. Faith is her own person, which, as we all are. However, Faith is not a slayer that will go out, save people, and be done with it, Faith likes a bit of fun with it, likes a little bit of rough, If you were to look at it as relationship types, Buffy's the type to be settled down with kids and a family, whereas Faith is more the type to sleep around. Not saying it's a bad thing, not saying it's a good thing, but it's that type. That's the type of people they are. You got the good and the bad in these characters, and this, of course, episode showcases the episode of Faith killing the mayor's ward, or the mayor's like sort of secretary type thing. It's such a good turn to have a character that starts out really good and turns bad, just like Angel into Angelus. While yes, they are two different characters. Faith turning to the bad side and becoming a rogue slayer is a big problem for the series, in a good way. And it's something obviously creeps up in the next season, which we'll get to next week. Friday coming. But Faith killing a man really is the ugly side of the series. You could say that the uglier side of the series is the stuff with Anne, and not the stuff with Anne, but the stuff that the aftermath, Dead Man's Party. That is very much an ugly episode as well, and some ugly moments in that. And unfortunately, that's just to do with the fact that Buffy's come back, but nobody. Buffy's not really apologetic about it, which not saying she has to be. Buffy needed to leave at the end of season 2 because of what happened. And everything that happened, it all built up to the point at which she had to just get out. So you can't really, it's not Buffy's fault to a certain extent. But she comes back and she gets treated very differently. That's another ugly part of the season. She gets treated very nasty in Dead Man's Party. And, another ugly part of the series in general is when they kick Buffy out in season 7. That's another ugly part of the series, and it really relates back to this Dead Man's Party moment. And this Faith killing a man just sort of pushes that over the edge in a good way. I really do enjoy the story. When I talk about the ugly side of this season, it doesn't necessarily mean that I dislike it, because I do like it, but it's very much hard to talk about. So that's the good, the bad, and the ugly for season 3. We are going to now just move on to some quick moments from the series, and of course the Maya is being it's probably the one thing I haven't talked about yet in this season. That and like Angel coming back, and obviously the old revelation that Buffy, he was reinsouled, and then Buffy had to kill him. And then Angel comes back, and it's like he comes back ravid, and it's just like ravid. I think it's ravid. He comes back, and he obviously is being affected by this whole thing in this hell dimension. Something which I think Supernatural sort of, they want to forget about it, but they remember it all. Yet they're not really going through a PTSD thing, or they have a way of dealing with it. Especially Dean. Dean has a way of dealing with it, whereas when it's Sam, he's sort of got an issue with, because it's the Lucifer thing. Obviously, it has to happen that way, that Sam has to deal with it in a very different way to Dean, whereas Dean has a choice to deal with it or to talk about it, and he deals with it with, his hunting style and drinking and, getting to work on his car and stuff like that. He builds all this up to the point at which where he actually gets angry at people. It's something that works through the whole of Supernatural. But I think that they actually show a lot more of how it affects a person, especially a non-human person. But not only a non-human, but a vampire with a soul. And it sort of deteriorates the soul. We also get the first instance of the Uber Vamp. Sorry, not the Uber Vamp, the Bringers. And the first in this season. That's another episode that I was willing to put on the top spot, like the good, but it was also an episode that I was going to put in the bad as well. There's a lot of conflicting episodes in the series, in this season in particular, where there's good parts and bad parts, and you just sort of want to talk about them anyway, but not in those sections of the video. But yeah, and then of course we get the mayor being the main villain, which I think the series just thought, you know what, we've done the vampire thing. We've had 2 seasons of vampires. We need to get a little bit down to the demon side and a little bit different. And so having this sort of demon god type villain who's been around for a long time but is not a vampire, very well done. You know, it changed the pace. You know, it's a human, effectively. The mayor is human, but rituals and things like that has allowed him to live for hundreds of years. And he's got the ascension to come, and he has to eat spiders and stuff like that to become immortal. And there's so much here that I actually love in this season, and it's down to the villain. I think he's a very effective villain because he's a human. You can't do much about that. You can't kill him. But of course, when he becomes a huge snake, blow him the fuck up. That's the exact thing to do. I absolutely love that scene where they blow up the mayor. It's a little bit weird when you hear the mayor's voice as a snake going, oh gosh. It's like, what? What did you say? Really? It's really strange, you know? I'm not dissing on it. Really quite enjoy it. But it's just really weird and it's really strange. But I think the mayor is, you know, eventually I will do a Buffy villains list. We'll see where the main goes. The mayor is a decent villain, very different for Buffy, because they can't just, you know, you don't get many fight scenes between Buffy and the mayor. In fact, you don't get none at all. Because at the end of the day, he is human. He has people around him to help. I think the closest they get to hurting him is through the secretary, even though the mayor doesn't really show a lot of remorse for him. He's upset that he's dead, but not quite upset as when Angel found out that Widow was a vampire all of a sudden, you know what I mean? There's no real emotion for that character, except for when Faith, obviously, Buffy has to try and get bleed Faith out, in order to save Angel. But of course, that is made more difficult when, you know, she stabs Faith jumps off the building onto the back of a truck, and, you know, the next thing we know, she's in the hospital. Buffy's in the hospital because she got the blood thing. Anyway, I love that storyline. There will not be a moment of the series for this season simply because there's too many of them. I just can't think of one particular moment. And it's possibly a moment that I maybe have talked about. You know, unless there's something that maybe I've forgotten to talk about, that maybe I'll stick in there. But for now, there is nothing I can think of off the top of my head to stick at the end of this video for the moment of the season, simply because there are so many good ones. I'm sure I'll think of one, you know. This series did so much for the Buffy universe. It completely changes it, you know, with the whole Faith thing. Faith being a rogue slayer and being trouble for Buffy for the next season. For some brilliant episodes in the next season. Not being around for season 5. Not being around for season 6, and then coming back for season 7 with a bit of a redemption arc that starts in Angel and sort of ends in Buffy. So that Faith is redeemed. Like, you know, it's kind of weird to see them fighting so much and nearly killing each other at the end of this season, to then end at season 7 where it's like they're all buddies sort of thing, and it's like, you know, I could sleep for a week and all this and that, and it's like, you know, just one of the characters not like, you know what, you did a lot of bad for us, you did a lot of bad to us, you need to fuck off. There's none of that, which again shows growth and character development, something which I love within the series. And this season just shows it is. So, where do I rank this season? Well, I'm going to put this season into the bracket of an 8 out of 10. It's not quite on the par of season 2. It's better than season 1. It's somewhere in between. Out of the first 3 seasons, season 2 is the best, then season 3, then season 1. I diss on season 1 a little bit more than I think I should, because season 1 is a good season. It sets up Buffy, and it's the reason why we get more seasons later on, because Buffy season 1 was so good. However, I think because of less episodes, you get less time to flesh out the season and the plotline. That's the reason why at the end we get the prophecy thing, something which I think if you add 22 episodes instead of 16, like a normal run of series, you could spend 1 or 2 episodes actually discovering that there's a prophecy, and then, the second of those episodes, you get the actual discovery of what the prophecy is, and then the next episode could go on to Buffy finding out, and the audience finding out what this prophecy is. A lot of prophecy talk. So yeah, 8 out of 10 for this season of Buffy. We're going to end it there. Thank you for watching. I am apologising again. I do apologise. I am sorry that you did not get this video on Friday, and it's not the way I normally do it. If this sort of style of video works, I will continue for this, because it will be a lot better. Especially if when I get into the Supernatural, if I can record, say, 5 seasons worth at a time, because it's my voice, then that's great. Because then you'll get the episodes every week on time. Whereas with this way, things happen, life happens, and you have to sort of just get on with it. And sometimes you don't get to go around and do what you want to do. So anyway, that's the video for today. Please leave a like on the video if you did like it. Comment down below what are your favourite parts of Season 3. Who your favourite character is of the series. Do you think, do you agree with some of the points I've made? Do you disagree? Are there parts that you think I should have talked about during this season? There's going to be so much that I do miss out when I talk about these seasons. I talk about them in general with key episodes, which is why I put in the good, bad, and ugly for it. Originally, there was going to be 4 episodes a week, 4 videos a week, based on 1 season. Clearly, that wouldn't have worked because I can't even hit it with just 1 video for 1 season. So anyway, hopefully we will be back on course next Friday for season 4 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But that's it for today. Check out my Facebook, my Twitter, the Patreon. All the links will be in the description below if they are not in this description, because sometimes I do forget. They're definitely in one of the other 2 Buffy videos, if not both. And you'll find them all there. Trying to make money for Comic Con. But we're going to end it there. And yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe to the videos and to the channel. It is much appreciated. Thank you so much. I've been Scrivo. This has been Scrivosphere. I'll see you next time, folks.
You're so evil and skanky. And I think I'm kind of gay.
Willow, just remember, a vampire's personality has nothing to do with the person it was.
Well, actually, it's a good point.